that many of us can share. But this morning, we live a resurrected Christ. We are thankful to the presence of Christ in our lives, that we're no longer alone, but that we are together, supported by God and by this community. You know, I should learn not to try and do this with a broken arm, but there we go. I'm not going to reach up to where Reverend Pat got this morning. But on the back of this one, the top, it said, "I was an ugly duckling." Been told you're an ugly duckling? Been told that everything about you is ugly? Been told that you're not beautiful? In Christ, I'm now a beautiful swan. Because we've come to learn that it's not about what it looks like on the outside. It's what it looks like on the inside that really matters, in the image and likeness of Christ. And that by cleaning up our act and by making our lives count and make a difference, we're no longer that ugly duckling by the world's standards, but we're the beautiful swan. The beautiful swan. I certainly found that one out in the last few weeks. Just on Monday when I came into the office, those of you who saw me, I had hair down from here to up to here because I wasn't able to shave with my right arm yet. I want to tell you, I felt like an ugly duckling. Now a beautiful swan. You see the problem with this cardboard, I can't see the music director over here, so I need to... Emotionally, drought left me numb. Emotional drought left me numb. We don't reach out to one another and love one another. We don't reach out and care for one another. Or when we've made ourselves vulnerable, other people have misused that trust in our own vulnerability. And yet, coming to know Christ, God's love has filled me to overflowing. Isn't that a beautiful story? That we no longer need to be emotionally drought, but that we can be filled by God's love. That's Resurrection Sunday for you. That's what it means to be a living image of Christ. That was what it means when we can be overflowing in God's grace. This morning, sisters and brothers, as we come to celebrate Easter, as we come to remind ourselves of the events that happened 2,000 years ago, those same events can happen for us today. Those same events of resurrection, of the physical resurrection of Christ, now becomes our spiritual resurrection in our own lives. We can come this day and to know Christ in our own lives. For even though Jesus was born to die, he was risen so that we might live. And to live fully and completely in all of God's likeness. How many of you are ready to live this morning? How many of us are ready to begin again this morning? How many of us who thought perhaps that when they came into church this morning that the lightning bolt would come out and smote us, and have been surprised by the mystery and the mercy of God that not one of us has been smote this morning, but rather we've been set free this morning in the glory of Christ? That's the invitation that God gives to us on this Resurrection Sunday, to begin again. To rise again, to never feel unworthy, to never feel unloved, but to know that there is God in our lives who helps us and walks with us and journeys with us and sets us free this morning. On Easter Sunday, every year in our church, we offer baptism. You see, scriptures record for us that when we come to know Jesus in our own lives, that we should have some physical expression that reminds us of that inward transformation. And baptism is that wonderful symbol that Jesus offered to his early disciples. Baptism is the symbolism of dying to the old and rising again to the new self, the new awareness of Christ within. This morning, as we do every Easter, we offer baptism for those who want to make a new start in their own lives, for those who are new believers and who want to make that outward recognition of an inward change. And we also offer the renewal of baptism vows, because we know for some of us, we were baptized many, many years ago. Some of us as children and some of us as adults. And that we need every now and again that reaffirmation of our own faith experience. Just as Jesus was baptized in the river Jordan, so must we be baptized again and again. Not necessarily with the physical water, but with the baptism of reaffirmation of our own lives. To give ourselves over one more time, to surrender ourselves to that resurrection one more time. And so this morning we invite you to come and to be reaffirmed in your own faith, to start that resurrection experience over again this morning, and to know that we have been risen to live this morning. No longer to die, but to live, to know that we can be supported by our God and by our community, to know that we've been freed by the light of God's Son, to know that there is God's love that will fill us to overflowing, and that most of all, each and every one of us is a beautiful swan, no longer an ugly duckling, but every single one of us as we surrender ourselves to the presence of the risen Christ. So I'm going to invite my colleagues to come forward this morning, and I'm going to ask the ushers if they would just guide us. And if you would like to come forward to be baptized or to reaffirm your vows this morning, on this Easter Sunday morning, we're going to invite you to do that today. I don't know if there are any other instructions that we should be passing out this morning, but I think that was the right instructions that I was given. To come and to be baptized, to have that outward affirmation of an inward transformation, an inward change, so that we may grow in likeness of Christ himself and the likeness and shape of the one who creates us. Happy Easter, everybody. And may nobody ever leave this place without feeling a sense of worthiness, a sense of transformation, and a sense of love in their own lives.